on Sunday at a show, and we talked for a little bit. I pulled him aside, being that he worked for WWE for a little bit. I pulled him aside, asked him the same questions, and he was pretty much the same thing. He was like, just go in there and be yourself, be respectful. We know you got, we know that you're gonna go up there and be fine. He said, just go in there and be respectful. Just go in there and, just be you. He's like, but just stay out of everybody's way. Don't try to mark out none of that stuff. I mean, that's common sense stuff. But he was just like, if you see Vince McMahon or Triple H or Stephanie, if you see them by themselves, just go up and introduce yourself. Or if you see that they're busy or they're on their phone, just keep it moving. They know, what you're there for. And that was another thing that John Scott said. He was like, a lot of the guys that you're going to see, they're going to know why you're there. They're going to know that you're an extra, so they're going to already know that you're a little nervous, you're a little scared, you're already on edge as it is. So they're not going to, be upset if you don't shake their hands or acknowledge them and stuff like that. But no, you basically just go in there and you just pretty much just chill. You pretty much you're there to just do whatever needs to be done. If you see somebody in the hallways, you speak and shake hands. Like, for instance, Brian Kendrick came up to all of us both days and shook our hands, said hello, and it was nice to see us. And, for Brian Kendrick, that's how he started out, as an extra, so he knows what the deal was all about. Bobby Lashley spoke to us. A few of the other guys and girls spoke to us. So, it's a very friendly environment from what I saw, to be honest.
Is there any kind of difference in okay, from what you can tell, obviously you're not on the road with them, you don't know for sure, but, for the time that you were there, is there any kind of a difference in etiquette between being on the indies and just being in that type of atmosphere? Because I don't know if people realize this, but in wrestling, it's different than most walks of life. Like, when you shake hands, you've got the dead fish handshake. There's all sorts of different things that you're supposed to do. And from what I'm hearing from you, you didn't have to walk around the locker room and introduce yourself to everybody. And from what I understand, that's different than an indie locker room.
Well, yeah, like I said, it was really different, and you see a lot of things that you wouldn't normally see at a regular indie show. Like, for instance, we had to be there. At a regular indie show, you might show to a building at maybe 2 or 3 hours before the show starts. Here we were told to be there by 1 o'clock. We couldn't come into the building until 20 minutes to 1. Everybody's running around trying to get things situated. Everybody's running around trying to make sure that they got all their stuff lined up. Everybody has a different job. Everybody has a certain thing to do. Everybody has a certain position that they have to be in. And, I can tell you, being backstage for 2 days, it's a lot of work. It is a lot goes into a WWE show, more than I think people know. At a regular indie show, you get there early, you help set the ring up, you help set up a little small entranceway, and you're done. You're probably done setting up within an hour. At a WWE event, those guys are probably there, from what I was told, they're there at probably 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, setting the ring up, setting the lighting rig up, setting the stage up, setting up the announcer's table, setting up the catering, setting up the locker rooms, getting the trucks. I mean, it's a lot to do out there. And, yes, it is very different, like handshake-wise, because I remember, I'm not going to say any names, but one of the guys I was with, when we went to go shake Devon's hand, Devon watched our match, and when he went to shake Devon's hand, he kind of gave him like that half handshake. It wasn't like that full grip handshake. And Devon was like, whoa. He was like, you gotta shake somebody's hand. Like, you gotta put your whole grip into a handshake. He's like, cause if you would have shook Vince McMahon's hand like that, it probably would have been a bad day for you. So, it's like I said, it's really different up there. It's really, like I said, it's laid back, but it's very professional out there. Like I said, everybody was on pins and needles. At an indie show, mostly at every indie show you go to, everybody knows each other, so everybody walks in laughing and joking. Here, you walk in and you're kind of just like, you don't want to say the wrong thing, you don't want to look at somebody the wrong way, you don't want to wander off into the wrong area. We were told we can only be in three places. That was in the locker room, catering, or in the arena. And that was until they started, letting people in and getting the show together, So it's very, like I said, it's very different. It's a very different environment when you go out to a WWE show. And then, like I said, if you're at one of your local indie shows, like I said, it's just very different.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, here's something I wanted to just kind of introduce for everybody, now that everybody knows that we're talking to somebody who's recently on Raw with a nice little guest appearance. And introduce yourself to people who maybe don't know who James Anthony is. We obviously know you well, and we've talked to you for a long time, but, tell everybody when you started wrestling and who trained you.
Well, the name is James Anthony. Real name is James Miranda. I started training in 2010 when I was 23. I moved from Henderson, North Carolina to Tampa, Florida. I moved in with my aunt and uncle, and they took me in for 3 months because I went and trained at FCW, what we all now know today as NXT. At that time, FCW was known as Florida Championship Wrestling, and that was the original developmental place for WWE talent. That's where a lot of guys that we know today came from, guys like EC3 and David Otunga and Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, and the list just goes on and on and on. And I moved out there in 2010 and trained for 3 months from June through September of 2010. And we were trained by Steve Kern and Norman Smiley in what was then known as the beginner's class. I wasn't signed to any contract. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I wasn't signed to any contract. You just paid a certain amount of money, and you trained for 3 months by these two men. There was times that a couple of guys would come in and help train, like EC3, David Otunga, Richie Steamboat was there at the time. He helped train with us. A few other guys that were there helped train us, and we did that for 3 months. After we were done training in September 2010, I went out and did some small little local independent shows. And I stayed in Florida until 2012 and moved back home to North Carolina. I moved back to North Carolina because at that time there was a lot of politicking going on in Florida at the time. And only being 2 years in, you could see that there was a lot of politicking going on. A lot of guys were coming to certain shows, and there was a lot of things going on that that I just felt like, I needed to get out and maybe go to some place where I can really build a name for myself. Because at the time, the state of Florida was really cluttered with a lot of talent. Because at that time, in 2012, when I was leaving Florida, a lot of guys like Jay Lethal and, Chris Hero and Eric Bischoff's son, Garrett, Wes Briscoe, Roderick Strong, a lot of these guys had either gotten released from, like, TNA or Ring of Honor, and they were trying to come out to local independent shows and trying to, keep their name alive. And, like I said, a lot of politicking went on. So I moved back to North Carolina in 2012, and I hooked up with a couple different independent shows and made a big name for myself. I really made a name for myself at mostly AIWF wrestling promotions. I made a big name for myself at Ring Wars Carolina. I made a name for myself pretty much at anything that was local in the North Carolina areas. Like I said, so I did a lot of shows at Ring Wars Carolina, AIWF Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, which is out of Mount Airy. I was doing some shows here in Kinston, North Carolina for UWC, which was known as Universal Wrestling Council. I was also doing some shows for a place called Impact Championship Wrestling, not to be confused with Impact Wrestling. It was a local independent show that was based out of the Lewisburg area. And, I just did local little independent shows here and there. I started making a name for myself in Tennessee. And actually, to go back a little bit, Impact Championship Wrestling, which is known as ICW, is where I met my tag partner, Victor Andrews, and that's where we kind of hooked up and linked up. And, that's where the whole first generation saga began there. From there on out, I just, got better in the ring, made a name for myself, and just started traveling out, going to different places. I've been, I've wrestled in Tennessee, in Florida, in West Virginia. I've been to Puerto Rico. I've wrestled up in New York. I've wrestled up in, the South Carolina area, Georgia. I've been in Mississippi. I love to travel, so I try to get out as much as I can. I've been to Rhode Island. I'm working on getting my passport now because I really want to go to Canada and wrestle. I would love to go out, definitely go out and get in Japan one day. I've just done whatever I can to make a name for myself. I stay away from all the drama. I mostly do a lot of traveling by myself. A lot of guys do like to travel with me you know, so most of the time I'll travel with a couple of guys that I know and I can trust. But most of the time, you know, I just stay to myself and do my own thing, you know. I've been doing this for 8 years now. Actually, September of this year will be 8 years. And actually, later on next week will be 8 years that I started training. So I'm coming up on almost 10 years now in the wrestling business.
That's crazy. That's, you know, just to think, you know, how long you've been doing this stuff and all the things that have happened within, you know, in the last 10 years or so. Before I get into a subject that I really wanted to talk about on this show, I wanted to talk about one more thing. You always say that you stay away from the drama, and you do. Anytime somebody says something negative to you on Facebook, I notice that you deflect it, and I'm really impressed with the way you do it because I can't imagine. Like, I'd probably get blackballed really fast if I were a wrestler because I just couldn't put up with some of the shit. And I know he's not listening, so I feel like I can kind of say this. Like Chase Owens. I like Chase Owens. But, like, you posted a picture of you with the trophy on the grass because it was an outside show, and he said something along the lines of, you know, that doesn't look very professional. And I just thought to myself, could he fucking message that to you? And I know you didn't, like, fire back at him because you're just not that type of guy, and you respect, you know, the veterans. Not that you're not one at this point, but did that kind of rub you the wrong way at all? I mean, do you kind of have to rein yourself in from time to time?
I didn't even forget. I don't really curse. I'm gonna go ahead and say I didn't really get two shits myself, to be honest with you. You know, and I just kept it moving. You know, because it's like I said, I don't. You know, even if I would have fired back and said something, it would have just started a bunch of mess. And you know, I like Chase Owens. You know, I've been on a couple of shows with him. You know, I don't have no kind of problems with him. I'm happy for all of his success. You know, but you know, it's like somebody. You know, somebody inboxed me and even said the same thing, like, well, no, why didn't you say nothing to Chase? And I was like, I told him, Chase is Chase. You know, that's just how he's always been. You know, from the time I met him, that's just how he's always been. You know, that's just how he is. And, you know, he made a good, I'll be honest, he did make a good point, you know, but at the time, you know, it was starting to rain, so we were trying to, like, hurry and take pictures so we can get the rain taken down, everything, because, you know, it rained for almost an hour. So we almost had to cancel the event, but it stopped raining. The sun came out. We were able to get everything back in order. I helped set up some things for the guys so that we wouldn't drag no kind of mud and stuff into the ring. And, you know, I'll give him credit. Yeah, maybe I should have waited to take it, but I didn't because, like I said, the guy that was in charge of the show, he really wanted to get a picture because he wanted to get on his website and stuff. But it's like you said, bro, you got to learn to just, you know, you learn to stay away from certain drama. You learn to just, you know, it's like I tell people, you know, if you just ignore people, they won't bother you because eventually they're going to be like, okay, well, there's nothing I can say that's going to get to this person. So, you know, you just keep it moving. You know, like I said, I saw the comment. And that's why I said what I said. Like I just told him, hey, it was an outside show. Even some other guy came back and was like, oh, you know, get a green screen. It's like, you know, I've seen people do the same thing all the time, and it's never an issue. So I was, like I said, I just kept it moving. I don't deal with all that. I don't deal with the Facebook drama. That's not what I have Facebook for. I have Facebook to promote, to be motivational, to make people laugh, to, you know, connect with other promotions. You know, I have guys hitting me up now asking me to watch their matches, and promoters want me to come to their shows, promoters seeing all my success, you know, and that's what it's all about. You know, I don't get on there to get into all the drama. I don't get on there to try to piss people off or to take sides with this project. No, that's not the kind of guy I am. Like you said, you know me for years now. So, you know, that's not the kind of guy I am. I don't do that kind of stuff. And like you said, you know, if it really was a real issue, he could have inboxed and said something, but he didn't. You know, he did it the way he did. I responded back, you know, and nothing else was said about it. So, you know, like you say, you know, you leave it alone. And if there's any younger wrestlers listening, just know that people are going to say what they want to say about you, but you got to learn to be the bigger person and just ignore it and just, you know, keep your nose clean and keep your head held high, you know, because people are going to hate on you no matter what you do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good advice, too. I mean, because there's a lot of times where people would just get sucked into that, and it'd be really easy, and then they get blackballed from whatever promotion, let's say, that Chase Owens works for, because, you know, somebody feels like they need to take a side. And screw that. So you
exactly.
You know, you deflected, you made sure it didn't become a bigger issue than it was. So I was just curious of how you feel about it. Because, you know, that's not the only time I've seen somebody say something like that, so I'm not just throwing shade at Chase. There's a lot of guys like that in the wrestling business and maybe not just Chase, but other guys who, you know, this grizzled old vet attitude where they have to criticize things. But I get it, where you just kind of, okay, it is what it is. But Okay, so to kind of give you a background on this show, because you ended up being a last minute fill-in, and I don't want to take away from that the fact of what we were going to talk